Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Album Fight Club. I'm your host, Cody Constantine, here with my co-host, Mike Kane. Mike, how are you?
Hey, how are you today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing great. I'm just joking. I'm Mike. That's Cody. So we're here with another episode, Album Fight Club. Our schedules have been rather hectic recently, but we have made it to this episode. Cody is, I think, excited to be here off of a pretty tough week from what I understand.
You, you people at home have no clue what I've just been through with my work, my last 2 weeks of work. And I would just like to say this before we begin. The hour and a half that I get to talk with Mike whenever I do about music is genuinely one of the bright spots in my life. And although sometimes we may call each other fools, idiots, jackasses, words that you cannot say at work, I am very thankful to have him as a friend and as a co-host on Album Fight Club.
I might cry, Cody. Thank you. It was very lovely.
Please do. You're welcome.
Well, today we are here to discuss Judas Priest, which is a pretty influential metal band, if I do say so myself. Before we get to the albums we're talking about, I do want to talk about Judas Priest briefly because I've never talked to Cody actually about his opinions of this band. I've only suggested, or we briefly talked about, hey, let's do this episode. So we did Iron Maiden, I think 2 episodes ago at this point, which feels like 3 months ago at this point. But we did at one point do Iron Maiden. And on that episode, I said that, I think we both said that Iron Maiden is one of the iconic metal bands. They've got the pedigree, they've got the legacy. You can't deny their talents and what they've done for metal. But for me, they're not one of my favorites. They're just, I appreciate all they gave metal music, but they're not like the upper echelon for me. Judas Priest is very similar in that they have a huge pedigree. They're an iconic metal band. They've been known for decades at this point. But the inverse thing is that I love Judas Priest. I love this band. Whereas with Iron Maiden, I'm just kind of like, it's cool. I like it. It's whatever. Judas Priest, I love this band. Cody, I don't know how you feel, but I'm interested to hear.
So Judas Priest to me has always felt like Iron Maiden's older scary brother. Whereas Iron Maiden has always done that thing where it's like, oh, we're writing about being in the trenches. Oh, we have Vincent Price on a song. Oh, aliens. Judas Priest is like, hey, give me your lunch money or I'm taking one of your teeth out. And that's it.
Yeah.
And listening to both of these records really cemented that idea in my head because Screaming for Vengeance plays as almost like a blueprint for what are they called? What's that title? The New Age of British heavy metal?
Yeah, New Wave of British heavy metal.
Yeah, New Album. And then you get to Painkiller, which, they've removed and reaccepted Rob Halford into the band. And holy shit, it's like your older brother coming back from being a Marine, a Navy SEAL, and also an astronaut at the same time. Just like, hey, man, you remember how we used to fight in the backyard? Yeah, I'm going to drown you in the creek now. And I loved it the entire time. Listening to both these records was just absolutely a treat.
So for anyone who knows Priest, they probably know several things. One is that they have a massive discography. I'm not talking like 50 albums, but for most bands, you've got like maybe 8 or 9 records. I think Judas Priest has like 18 at this point, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Iron Maiden's pretty similar in that they have a lot of records too. The other thing you'll know if you're a big Priest fan is that Priest fans cannot agree on what is the greatest Priest record. They just can't, right? With Iron Maiden, it's like Number of the Beast or Power Slave. With Metallica, it's like Ride the Lightning or Master of Puppets. I've seen several lists where Painkiller's number 1, Screaming for Vengeance is number 1, Defenders of the Faith is number 1, British Steel is number 1, Killing Machine's number 1. I saw a list where Firepower was number 1, which I was like, excuse me.
That's a hot take.
Firepower is their most recent record. It's a good record, but it's not number 1. Like, come on. Anyway, but the point is, no one can quite agree on like what's the best Priest record. And so when it came to choosing 2 records, I'm just gonna be blunt. Cody accepted it. I just wanted to talk about my 2 favorite Priest records. For me, I think these 2 are clearly the best. Defenders of the Faith is really good. Jugulator is underrated as hell. But these 2 records, I think, really, they're normally in the conversation for best Priest record. And I think they just like kick ass, to put it bluntly. I think both of them do in different ways. Plus, they both have 10 tracks each, but I'm going to argue they have 9 tracks each. But we'll talk about that when we get to the track by track. But you're right, Cody. Scream for Vengeance is very much this like prototypical new wave of British heavy metal album. It's very much the expectation, but I think it's done exceedingly well on that record. And then you get to Painkiller, and Painkiller is just like this atomic bomb of a record going off. And I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but I really do like both these records.
So it's funny that you said people can't pinpoint a best collective Priest record, and I have done so much thought because I've listened to these records enough times over the last 2 weeks now. Both of these are really good at one point, and then out of nowhere, there are choices made that it simply made me go, what the fuck happened here? One of these records starts really strong, and then out of nowhere, it made me physically angry because I was like, you fucking were doing so good. And the other one starts, to me, kind of lackluster, and then in the middle, Hard Take just became perfect. Like in the car driving home, I was saying to myself, this is a beautiful example of they had me in the first half and then they had me in the second half. And just say, I'm not going to lie after either of those sentences.
Wow. Okay. I cannot agree with that. I think both these records start exceedingly strong. I agree in that there's moments on both these records where I'm like, man, that's kind of weak. I don't know what you were thinking there, but I think both records like definitely start strong, which we'll get to the first matchup. But like, I think I know which record you're talking about when you say one starts really strong and then gets weaker. But then that surprises me that you think the other record starts weaker and then gets stronger. So let's get to it. But before I start, I want to say something about the band itself. Judas Priest is a very famous metal band. And I think the reason they're so famous and they're so iconic is because of their lead singer, Rob Halford, who time and again has been talked about as like one of the greatest metal vocalists of all time. It's true. If you've listened to Priest, if you know metal music, you know Rob Halford, you know he's iconic, you know he's amazing. Both these records showcase that. But who doesn't get talked about enough, and I think what really is the secret sauce to Judas Priest, is the dual guitar work of Glenn Tipton and KK Downing. Those two together on guitar, not one of them individually, the two of them together make so many moments on these two albums just like soar. Because they're both playing the same thing, and just like the sound and the grit of it is so good. And nothing against the bass player and the drum players, because both these records, one has one drummer and the other has a different drummer. I don't remember their names offhand, unfortunately. But I think the true trifecta is the guitar players and, of course, Rob Halford. Yeah,
there are some genuine guitar clinics on both of these records. Yeah. One of them is a clinic in technical prowess, and the other is a clinic in I really put every single thing into every one of these solos. Mm-hmm. All right, Mike.
Okay, I'll set the stage and let you go, because I really have no clue. With the setup you gave, I have no clue what you're thinking here, and I'm really interested. But so this is what I didn't tell Cody, is that technically there's 10 tracks for each, but a track on Screaming and a track on Painkiller is like an interlude to the next track. So I think, Cody, the first matchup should be Helion and Electric Eye versus Painkiller.
That's what I did.
Because the Helion is like the intro to, or Hellion is the intro to Electric Eye. And then you have, so I think they're technically one song. So Painkiller should be matched up against those. Okay, with that being said, Cody, blow my mind.
Oh man, this is about to be this next 40 minutes is Mike is going to be fucked off at Cody. Let me tell you.
Look, don't even go in a certain, if you go in a certain direction, I'm going to explode.
Here's where it starts, man. Painkiller came out of the gate, front to back, a perfect metal song. The entire time, all I was thinking to myself was, this is Doom music. This is Doom boss music. Listening to Painkiller, Rob Halford's voice, the guitar, the choices, the solo, I closed my eyes and I was immediately in this little 8-bit body running around my apartment shooting fucking demons in the head. The drums kick ass. Dude, the guitar tone kicks ass. We're going to speak about Rob Halford probably a lot in this podcast. This man's voice is like infallible. he is going for these notes at such frequency that it is unbelievable that a human man can consistently hit these notes uh and choose to go back to them time and time again. The first guitar solo is perfect, and then the rest of the song is perfect. Where we get to the Hellion Electric Eye, I was listening to it, and the beautiful thing, but also the downfall of this podcast, is that we have now listened to so much essential classic heavy metal. We've really almost ran the gamut.
Hmm.
We're missing Megadeth, and I think we will have done it. This felt good, but in comparison, all I could think of was, man, I listened to Painkiller first, and this feels like a hard rock song, but it's nowhere near as enticing. And that's not to say it's a bad song. It's just the way that Painkiller, it grabs you by the throat. And it's just like, yeah, okay, yeah, Rob Halford's back in the band. I hope you guys are ready for an hour of shit your pants music. But to Hellion Electric Eye's credit, Painkiller came out in a time where heavy metal was, I think, more accepted. It was more open to be into Megadeth, Slayer, Iron Maiden, Metallica, things like that. Hell, we had Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses have a couple songs where it's like, yeah, you're veering here. Screaming for Vengeance, though, this feels like music that you would hide from your parents. And I have to give a lot of credit to the rawness of the Screaming for Vengeance songs, because I couldn't imagine listening to this when it first came out. I bet this would have owned my life. So for me, in this moment, Painkiller is the better song. Doesn't mean Hellion or Electric Eye is a bad song, but in this exact moment, Painkiller starts off throttling you.
Okay, Cody, we're not fighting yet. Not only is Painkiller the better song, I honestly think it's one of the greatest metal songs ever made. But let me start with Hellion Electric Eye. I love this song. I adore this song, and I'm putting the two together. I think Hellion is a really cool way to open the album, just like the soaring guitars. It's just like epic. It's huge. And then, so you come in with the Electric Eye, and it's just like, again, Tipton and KK Down, and coming in with their dual guitar work. You got Rob's voice on top of it. I think it's a really cool song. And on top of it, it's a great radio metal song. Like, it's a great radio metal song that like hits hard. And it's one of those where it's like, it doesn't really feel sell out-ish like a lot of radio metal songs do. This one feels like this is killer, not filler. It hit the radio. It's great. I love that people are like listening to this because, they're normally not exposed to this kind of thing because you don't put metal on radio generally. Of course, this was the 80s, so it was much less like aggressive as it is now, but I digress. I think it's great. I think it's a great opener. I love this song. The problem is it's up against Painkiller, which, man, as a drummer, dude, just like the, oh man, like the second it starts, you're just like, take me away. And you think, the drums are like the first 20 or 30 seconds, and you're like, yeah. God, they're owning this. And then the it's like, oh my God. Oh man, every part of it. And then Rob comes in and he's doing that high pitched Rob, not the like, which Rob's voice is already like higher register. But man, when Rob goes high, he screeches, and his screeching is so cool. A lot of stuff I'm going to say about Judas Priest is that their lyrics are kind of cornball. They got a lot of
very, very cornball.
Yeah, they got a lot of really corny songs, but Rob Halford can sell those lyrics, dude. Like when he talks about, like I'm just trying to think of like stupid lyrics from Painkiller because there's a lot of them. It's pretty dumb. Like, he is the painkiller. Like, it's kind of stupid, but like when he does it, I'm like, yeah, let's go. It's awesome. The guitars are awesome, and especially the guitar solo where it does that, and they go like right back into it, and Rob's oh man, every time. And then the ending where Rob holds out Painkiller, and just like holding out the part, and the drums just and they just get faster and faster. Dude, it's perfect. It's like metal Bible stuff, honestly. It's the Bible of like, how do you play fast, aggressively, and have every single instrument sound amazing on it. Now the bass, the bass really isn't the feature here, but it doesn't need to be, because everybody else is just playing at 11. It's perfect. It's like one of the coolest openers ever. It's one of the coolest metal songs ever. It's honestly my favorite Judas Priest song. And just to throw that out there, I can't think of much better in terms of just like nailing metal music. When I think of quintessential metal music, I think of Master of Puppets. I think of Paranoid. I think of Painkiller. And to me, Painkiller is just by far and away the better track here.
I agree.
Yeah. So I'm guessing then your little, note you gave at the beginning with one of these records starting off really strong and the other record not starting off very strong, but then, so this is going to get interesting, because I think Painkiller excels the whole way through. I think there are some tracks that are weaker, but we'll clearly get to it. So next matchup is Riding on the Wind versus Hell Patrol. This is the moment where, Painkiller, you start the record with just like your biggest bomb. And you're like, man, I'm so excited for this record. What comes next? And you get Hell Patrol. And Hell Patrol, like, I like Hell Patrol. I don't skip it. I sing along. I think it's cool. I think it's awesome. But man, you got to follow up Painkiller. And it's like, it's just not quite doing it for me in terms of just like blowing the door open and then following up. I think it's a cool song. Again, I think the lyrics are kind of corny, kind of stupid, but that's really a lot of Judas Priest lyrics. But then, in contrast, you get Riding on the Wind, which I thought Hellion Electric Eye was cool. Riding on the Wind, man, when you talk about Rob Halford performance, and I don't want to mimic Rob Halford's voice because it's so impossible to do, and I'm already a bad singer, but the first line where he goes, shooting for the stars, like, oh, it's so cool, and I'm immediately just like right there and in it. And then the chorus with the Riding on the Wind, like, oh man, it's so good. It's what Screaming for Vengeance does really well is like every single chorus on Screaming for Vengeance is just like awesome.
They're $1 million choruses.
It's just so good. Like Riding on the Wind's chorus is so good.
That's the beauty of writing really cornball lyrics, is when you get to the chorus, you're like, oh yeah, this is the part that I actually had to put quite a bit of thought into. Mm-hmm. Because now I've got to sell this cornball. That's why I think Maiden sometimes succeeds. Because, like I said, they'll be like, oh no, Dracula's around the corner. And then it'll be like, evil fangs, evil wings, biting teeth and veins. And it's like, yeah, that works for me.
Yeah.
I like this. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going with Riding on the Wind here just because in this matchup, I think not only is it the better song, but also it's just like, so when you think of quintessential metal, just like metal in general, I think Painkiller. Like Painkiller is an album that immediately when I just think metal music, it's one of the first ones that come up. But when I think of quintessential 80s era metal, like not thrash, but just like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, like that era of like British heavy metal, Screaming for Vengeance is there. And I think Riding on the Wind is a great example of why it's there, of why it's such a classic record.
I agree. Opposite of Mike, Hell Patrol came in, dude, and it grabbed me.
Okay.
I feel bad because I wish there was more I could say about Judas Priest, right? But all of the talking points end up being kick-ass guitar riff. The tempo that they're playing at on this record is fantastic. These first 7 songs or whatever are just beef flying through it. The guitar tones sound incredible. Rob's voice sounds great. The drum mix on this record is fucking... it's got me bricked up. I listened to the drums on this record come, and you're like, oh, yeah, you guys spent fucking $1 million on these drum sounds, you know? So Hell Patrol comes in just keeping up the intensity from Painkiller, whereas when we get to Screaming, or when we get to Riding on the Wind, man, I love the drums, but then they do that metal thing where they fall back into the tempo. Like a lot of the songs on Screaming for Vengeance until a certain point feel like the same tempo. Whereas you get the Painkiller and everything feels faster.
Mhm.
And I think that's what really drew me to Painkiller for a certain point. But the one other thing that I wrote about Riding on the Wind is that the beginning of the first guitar solo, I don't know who does it. They do this fucking pinch harmonic dive bomb, which is disgusting to hear. For those of you who don't know, a pinch harmonic is when you take your finger and you don't fret the note, you just place it above the fret, and it makes this like bing noise. But then he does it and then dive bombs with like a tremolo bar. So it's like bing. Oh my god, I rewound it 4 or 5 times, but it's a good song. Whereas Hell Patrol felt like a band really, really understanding what the next length needed to be. So for me, it's Hell Patrol.
Okay, fair enough. And like I said, I love Hell Patrol. I don't hate. Well, I was gonna say I don't hate any of these songs. That's not entirely true. There's one song on Screaming for Vengeance that I think is just like, man, I'm not a fan of this song, but we'll get there.
I think I know what song you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bloodstone versus All Guns Blazing. Are you shaking your head no because this is easy or this is hard?
In my opinion, this is this is shockingly easy.
Hold the phone, Cody, because this is a hard ass matchup. Look. Do not tell me Bloodstone is not a good song, because
it's a good song. But when you have Rob Halford with twisting the strangle grip at the beginning,
okay, look. So stage diving, right? You've stage dived plenty of times, Cody. You've been there, right? When he comes in with the and you're just like he does that first like line, and just there's no music, right? He just does the first line, and then there's just silence, and you're like, oh my god, what was that? And then he does the second line with the same tone, and right after it just boom, boom. Oh man, I've never wanted to stage dive off as fast and as tall as anything in my life, right? I wanted to go 60 miles per hour off a 30-story building when the whole band comes in and All Guns Blazing.
This song, so Mike and I went to go see Converge, and when this song happened, all I could picture was Rob Halford walking. Jake Bannon, the singer of Converge, he goes into like goblin mode. He turns into this like little hunchback crooked arm, and when Rob's voice came on and he started singing, all I could picture was this crooked back little fucking nightmare demon goblin thing from the depth of hell, because the line that he sings is absolutely bonkers. Twisting the strangle grip, won't give no mercy, feeling those tendons rip, torn up and mean. And then they do it a second time, but like Mike said, when the band comes in, it's like, dude, have you seen Crank?
No, I haven't.
It's like in Crank, when Jason Statham has to continually re-adrenalize his heart.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this movie. It's been a long time, though.
That's what this song did for me.
Yeah.
It just felt like somebody jammed 2 metal rods in me and then said, hey, we're going to attach a car battery to you now. Yep. Hope you love going fast. Where Bloodstone, honestly, feels like a weaker Judas Priest song.
Oh, Cody, come on. Are you kidding me?
It's the same old.
No.
Of the last two. All I'm going to say about Bloodstone is that I wrote the timestamp at 2 minutes and 35 seconds. The guitar solo that happened really perked my ears.
Okay, well, you're wrong, and I hate you. So Bloodstone is like, man, you want to talk about, I don't know how this song didn't make it to radio, or maybe it did, and I'm just not, like, there's huge radio songs on Screaming for Vengeance. One of them comes much later. It's like almost their biggest hit ever. But Bloodstone is such a perfect like radio song, metal, whatever. It's not even metal, really. It feels hard rock to me. It's not really metal at that point, but man, is it so good. And well, maybe that's a problem for you, Cody. But the thing is, go ahead, because you want to say something.
It is.
But why is that an issue?
It is because to me, Judas Priest, right, is a band that like kids use to like scare Christian parents. I don't want to hear this fucking. It's like one of these songs on Screaming for Vengeance, I believe. I have written down, yeah, it just sounds like Blue Oyster Cult. Whereas you get the Painkiller, and it's like, oh yeah, this is metal up the fucking ass, dude.
Yes.
This is titanium, dude.
Yes.
Hard rock is cool. I like my Judas Priest metal. I want it metal.
No, so yes, I mean I like Pain. I don't know if it's made clear at this point. I love Painkiller more than I love Screaming for Vengeance. However, when you talk about just like mass appeal, which I appreciate when metal can hit mass appeal. Say what you will about the Black Album by Metallica, but you have to give that album credit for how much it appealed to like a completely different generation of people and a new, like it brought metal to the masses. And I can appreciate that. An album like Screaming for Vengeance kind of does a similar thing where people aren't really into metal, but oh, wait a minute, who's this Judas Priest? Because I'm hearing You've Got Another Thing Coming on the radio and I like it and it's cool and it's kind of heavier. Bloodstone, one, that chorus is like $1 billion chorus. It's so huge. So cool. But the sort of anecdote I like to give is I used to be in basically an album, not Fight Club, but an album book club, basically, which was me and 3 other guys would trade. Like one of us would pick an album at the beginning of the week. All of us would have to listen to it. And then at the end of the week, we would get together on Facebook Messenger and talk about the album. Right. One time I chose Screaming for Vengeance because I didn't want to do Painkiller because Painkiller is like too far if you're not really into metal. And so I started with Screaming for Vengeance. And one guy in the group, he hit it on the head, which was Bloodstone was his favorite song because he felt the heft of it, but he could also get behind like how catchy it is and how the chorus soars and he could feel it. So I can appreciate Bloodstone for that on top of the fact that I think it's just a great song. Admittedly, though, it doesn't make me want to stage dive. It doesn't make me want to rip people's heads off like All Guns Blazing does, which is such a cool song. And that chorus of just, all guns blazing. Like, it's just cool. Like, yeah, it's kind of cornball-y and maybe it's a little lame, but I don't give a fuck, dude. Like, it comes on and I'm ready to like punch walls and like dive kick people.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. If I heard this song, if a band today covered All Guns Blazing, I would get in the pit and I would spin kick people. I would be the menace. They'd be like, wow, I didn't realize Cody was so flexible as I'm committing Street Fighter level of damage.
Yeah, and if I went to like setlist.com and saw that they were going to play All Guns Blazing, I would prep myself, get to the front, wait for the song before All Guns Blazing to stop, and then in the darkness, sometimes the lights go down. That's when I get over the barrier, past the security guards, and then when Rob starts, I'm prepped. I'm ready to just bolt off the stage and dive into the crowd.
I would pay any amount of money to watch Mike front flip off of a barrier onto people. That would be the greatest joy of my life.
Have you ever been in a public setting with me when Bulls on Parade comes on?
No.
Oh, so Jason knows this well, which is sometimes we'll be at a bar and he'll put Bulls on Parade on the jukebox. And he knows how I react to Bulls on Parade when it comes on, because Bulls on Parade is like one of my favorite songs ever. All Guns Blazing is the same thing. We're like, if All Guns Blazing comes on in a public setting, I don't care where we are. We could be at church. I'm going to start flipping some pews, right? It's going to go down. It's All Guns Blazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Cody, this is where we get into true Judas Priest cornball territory. We get to Take These Chains versus Leather Rebel. Look, it's not that Take These Chains is a bad song. I don't think it's bad, right? But I don't think it's great. And there's even a worse offender that's about to come up. But like the lyrics, the chorus is good. Like it's a good musical chorus. It's got good structure. It's got a good rhythm. But it's just so not what I want, when compared to something like Leather Rebel, which is just continuing the pain train of Painkiller.
The pain train,
dude. This whole album's a pain train.
No, dude. Oh my god, yeah. It's like Leather Rebel comes on, and you listen to the song, and you look at that title, and you go, maybe this might be like a more of like a headbangy kind of metal song. No, they're whoever's playing guitar is at Mach fucking 9, dude. They're breaking the sound barrier. They're playing so fast that I thought like I had the song sped up. The only note that I have for Leather Rebel is Jesus Christ, this riff is fast. But Take These Chains, though. It's very much a departure from the rest of Screaming for Vengeance, but I kind of like that. Has this, like, the intro to it feels almost like Genesis. You know, it's got that, like, Phil Collins-y kind of vibe to it. I think it's a good song. I really think the first half of Screaming for Vengeance could almost be considered a hard rock album. And I think that I have written in my notes, these are difficult to compare right now because it's almost a hard rock album. But I mean, dude, come on. That's like putting me against like Usain Bolt. I mean, sure, I can run. It's fucking Leather Rebel. It's going to be Leather Rebel. Anybody who says so has a hearing deficiency and should be tarred and feathered. And yeah, that's going to anybody.
But here's the thing is that for me, maybe Leather Rebel might be my least favorite song on the first half of Painkiller. Because I'm talking the first 5 songs. Well, that's the thing is that, yeah, in comparison to Take These Chains, it's no contest. It's clearly Leather Rebel.
No.
But I do want to comment on the fact that Leather Rebel at a point is like, okay, like this is still cool. It's still fast. It's still awesome. But can you turn it up a notch?
Yep.
And oh boy, do they. Because
Mike! Metal Meltdown. It could be, you should just put it, if you give a 5-year-old a metal record, it should be this song.
Okay.
It should be this song. This is what heavy fucking metal should be.
Good.
It just happens. Like, Metal Meltdown is like if you took ayahuasca or whatever and said, show me heavy metal. And this song would just appear. And it's just 2 words. Metal Meltdown. It's so fucking unbelievably good. The guitar is a clinic. Drums, clinic. Vocals, clinic. The bass player, who at this point has been playing nothing but root notes. God bless him. Clinic. This dude probably made $12 million just playing like EADG. Perfect fucking song. Perfect song.
Okay, so here's my tirade on Metal Meltdown because I'm in agreement with Cody. This song fucking goes, dude. It's so good.
This song fucks. Fucks. Period.
Yeah. Now I will say the intro sort of solo that's like got like this reverb effect on it. At first I'm like, man, this could go one of 2 ways, right? And quickly it's like, no, that was just the intro, right? Then they get to the and I'm just like, okay, here we go. And then you think that's going to be the riff, but then they do the boom choo boom choo boom, like something's coming, and just like, oh man, it's so cool. And like the pre-chorus where he's just like holding that like like, again, I'm bad. I'm just making like notes here, but and then the chorus of "Here comes the metal melt," and again, it's corny as shit, dude. Like, "Here comes the metal meltdown, run for your lives." Like, it's so stupid, it's so corny, but fuck, when they sing it and they do it, it's just like the coolest thing ever, and I'm like totally into it. But go ahead.
And there's something really impressive because for a long time, people like to say that, like Slayer used to play fast. Their tech metal bands like through Dragon Force play fast, But you listen to this, and it's like, who had the weights on for the first 4 songs or whatever? Because it's blistering at the speed, and it's not just like these single notes. They're playing whole phrases. It must be at 230 beats per minute. I mean, and they're keeping these songs up on Painkiller for like 4 or 5 minutes. Judas Priest really deserves some credit for the endurance of being able to just fucking play, man, fast
Yeah,
the whole time.
for sure. But I didn't even talk about the coolest part of Metal Meltdown. So we get the guitar solo, right? And then they have this moment after the guitar solo where they go back to the whole barrel, 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 the chorus riff, right?
Yeah.
And then that introduces it, and then they go barrel, 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 and then Rob goes, "It's coming, meltdown!" Oh man, dude, like it is the coolest thing ever.
I wish we had the rights to get the sound clip from the Chappelle show when he's with John Mayer and he's like, "Play the fight riff, John.
Yeah.
play the fight riff," because that's just what this felt like. And you know what? Earlier I said one of these songs feels like Blue Oyster Cult. That's Pain and Pleasure for
Okay,
me.
yeah, yeah,
It just like I was listening to it, and the drums though are so big. The drum sound, the snare sound is like cavernous, but the rest of the song feels like I've listened to Secret Treaties, and now they've been like, okay, well, hey, we're bringing on stage Rob Halford, local singer of local metal band.
yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's cool, but like, dude, that Metal Meltdown
Yeah,
might as well.
it's no contest. But I do want to talk about Pain and Pleasure because it's actually my least favorite song on both these
That's
records. I know I said earlier that all the choruses on Screaming for Vengeance are awesome. I hate this chorus. You give me bim, 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 pain. It's like, come on, dude. Like, that's so corny. And you're right. It does sound like, local garage band's first song that like out of the garage and in the bar playing for their first gig. It's not a bad song. I don't hate it, but like, it's just so skippable for me. It's honestly a skip song. So to be matched up against Metal Meltdown, sorry, like this song just wipes the floor with Pain and Pleasure.
Yeah. So here, man,
So we get to now, Cody, is this the moment where the turn happens?
this is where it turns out that Doctor Strange has been watching the fight the whole time. Because we get to Nightcrawler and Screaming for Vengeance.
I'll let you.
And let me
go.
And let me tell you something, and this is gonna offend somebody, and I do not care. If you like symphonic metal, if you like your metal to be like Scooby-Doo chase music, man, that's cool. There's a level of seriousness I like. And Judas Priest, at this point, break that barrier of silliness. Nightcrawler feels super cartoonish. The rest of Painkiller is standing on its own merit. They're fucking blazing through these songs, and then out of nowhere, at this exact point, Mike, it's like they put down the pen and paper and said, "What if we just did something different here? You guys were setting up fucking clinic, man. You're Tyson right now. You're just pummeling. In comparison to Screaming for Vengeance, this is like Rob Halford comes in out of nowhere with this fucking singing. They're blazing through these songs, and it's almost like you transferred the energy from Painkiller into Screaming for Vengeance. That's how it felt to me. Nightcrawler ended, I was like, oh, that's cool. And then Screaming happened, and I was like, whoa, where was this the last 4 songs or 5 songs? Out of nowhere, it's heat. The thing that I have written down that made me happy about Screaming for Vengeance is a perfect title track. This is what the record should sound like the whole time. But the moment when the drums do that break right before they go back into the main riff, where they're like da 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 da, you know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
Oh my god! And it sounds like they're going to go into a different section. And then Judas Priest like, fuck you, watch this. And then just like back into the main riff. Oh my god, Mike, it made me stand up, dude. It made I literally was like, this is gonna be a wash for me. And then out of nowhere, this happened. I was like, oh, yep, here we go. Yep. So for me, it is undoubtedly Screaming for Vengeance.
So, do you not like Nightcrawler?
Um, it's a decent song, but to me, it felt almost kind of like a retread in a
Mhm.
way. A lot of the song happens, and where I was mentally, I was like, I feel like I've heard this in the last few songs, which is cool. But then when you do something where you come out in the middle, guns blazing, it's like, whoa, okay, hold on. There's more. There's more to predict.
Okay. So my thing with Nightcrawler is that you're right in that it's cartoony. In fact, it's so cartoony it's kind of lame when they open with like
Mm-hmm.
the like the church choir and like the thunder happening. I'm like, what? Like, are we trying to be Slayer here? Because it's not working for me at all.
No.
But man, they bring that riff in, and I'm right back into it. I'm like, oh, this riff's sick. Like this riff's cool. It's not nearly as good as previous riffs on the record, but it's
No.
still cool as hell. Um, and then we get to that later portion of the song where he does the spoken word, and it's just behind the
Mm-hmm.
and he's just doing that spoken word bit, and I'm like, okay, I'm with you, I'm with you, I'm with you, and then boom, 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 like goes right back into it. I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. Yeah, Nightcrawler's cool. Screaming for Vengeance though, bro, like this, you're right, you're totally right in that. Take These Chains came on, and I'm like, man, this song's just whatever. Pain and Pleasure comes on. I'm like, man, you're really slacking now. Like, you guys better pick it up.
Yep.
And boy, do they pick it up. This song goes. In fact, it might be either Riding on the Wind or this song is my favorite Rob Halford performance on the whole record. And it's definitely between those two because it's really where Rob like excels in like the screeching vocals that he does. And especially that screech at the end where he holds out like
Oh,
the
dude.
screaming, like he holds out that with like a screech. Every time I'm just like, I get chills. I'm just like one of those moments where it's like, how is a human producing that noise? Well, he just like nails it, and they cut out all the music, and it's just him screeching that note, and then they come back in. It's one of those perfect musical moments. Um, it's fast, it's heavy. You're right. It almost feels like a completely different record just turned on, and I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure on the vinyl, it's side two is Scream for Vengeance. It's open side
It
two.
has to
Yeah,
be.
it's cool to flip the record over, and that's the first thing you hear. So I agree. It is indeed Scream for Vengeance in this matchup.
And this is where it gets surprising for me because now, right, the first half of this has been I love Painkiller. I almost start to get what now I think we could affectionately call album Fight Club fatigue,
Oh,
where Painkiller, I'm going, whoa, hold on. I feel like a lot of these songs are starting to get samey. Because,
hmm.
dude, we get between the hammer and the anvil, and it's a good song, right? It's a good song. And what I like about this song is that this is the first time on this record where it feels like classic Judas Priest,
Yeah.
which is a really interesting section to be in because it sounds like we people. I feel like people don't give Judas Priest actually enough credit. I think a lot of people look at Priest in just the music world and go, "Oh, it's cool, cool metal band, new wave of British heavy metal. Singer has that thing going on with him." But then you listen to a song, for example, like Hammer and Anvil, and this song kind of sounds like a bar fight. Like you listen to it, and I could close my eyes and see somebody take 2 shots of Jack Daniels and then punch somebody in the face. I just love it. Uh, the second, the section right before the second chorus has this like really interesting shift into this like emotionally charged riff, or out of nowhere, it's like they just do this weird little key change, and it's like, oh, this it feels like almost like a hardcore band, and then out of nowhere, it's like, all right, back into the riff. I do have a good joke here. Rob's voice is made of steel, British steel. Where, man, we're talking about you've got another thing coming. And I think that we have fallen into the issue here on Album Fight Club, where when the classics come, we pay them their due respects. But man, I have to admit, this song will forever be badass. This song is black leather jacket Marlon Brando badass. This song is Sam Neill badass. This song made me want to go work construction. It made me want to go have like a blue collar job and get in like a Silverado, and instead of listening to that awful cover of Fast Car, I get to just hear classic fucking metal. It's undisputed, man. And God bless Judas Priest, where other bands at the time of Screaming for Vengeance, I mean, they're doing all this cool stuff. Priest even does it on this record. But what is something that is always so important to remember about heavy metal, Mike? You got to make it want to bang your fucking head. And man, got another thing coming. Just exactly how that should sound.
You've Got Another Thing Coming is quintessential motorcycle music. Like, just you picture a dude in the leather jacket, like you said, on the motorcycle, and like that's the song he's listening to. That or Born to Be Wild, right? It's like that, just like
classic
pictures it, right? And on top of it, it's actually my favorite by a mile Judas Priest radio song. Like, they're huge hits: 2 Minutes to Midnight, Breaking the Law, right? The quintessential like radio Judas Priest songs. You've Got Another Thing Coming is easily, I think, the best one. It's heavy, but it's catchy. It sounds like radio, but it also sounds like metal. Like it has that grit. It has that grind to it. And just the simplicity of it. It is a simple song. It's not complex. It's not fast. It's not frenetic. And yet every part of it works. You're right in that we go off about classics. And I mean, they're classics for a reason. You've Got Another Thing Coming is quintessential Judas Priest because it's quintessential. It's that good. Plus
it does. Good.
Plus the fact that they do they do that thing I love where the verse mimics the riff, where it's like it's just cool. And I really like it when they do that. If I could speak briefly about Between the Hammer and the Anvil, you're right. Cool song. Sounds like more Painkiller. And that's not necessarily a bad thing when Painkiller's such a good record, but in the idea of Album Fight Club, it's just not nearly doing enough in terms of this matchup. I think You Got Another Thing Coming is just doing way more. And at the end of the day, I think I would take that song over Between the Hammer and the Anvil as well.
Yeah. To speak one more time about You've Got Another Thing Coming. You've Got Another Thing Coming does the exact same thing that the ending of Domination by Pantera does, where it says, hey man, we did a whole bunch of cool shit earlier. We're going to play this guitar and we're going to make it a rhythm that you're going to go, Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And you're going to smile and you're going to bang your head and the world's cool. And I think that for all of the technical flashiness, for all the guitar solos, blast beats, variations of screams, technical ability, there's something really important about being able to boil yourself down and go, does this make me want to bang my head? And when you can do that, man, you've made it.
Very well said.
All right,
Cody. We might fight here. We might. So I'm interested to see where this goes. We have Fever versus A Touch of Evil.
Yeah, we do.
I'm waiting for you, Cody. I want to hear because you've been talking about this whole one half of this album is better than the other half of both. And we got to this moment where we're in, according to you, at least the better half of Screaming for Vengeance, right? And we're apparently in the worst half of Painkiller, right?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
We are. I think Fever's a better song. No, 100%. 100%. Mike has left the. Mike has officially stood up and left. This is the first time, but I think I've pissed Mike off enough. All right, hold on, Mike. Here we go. Let me hit you with a question.
Sure.
Are you a fan of this band, Judas Priest?
I am.
Are you a fan of this band called Guns N' Roses?
Yeah, less so, but yes.
Did you like the first Guns N' Roses record, Appetite for Destruction?
I did.
Then, Mike, let me tell you, Touch of Evil is just literally a song off of Appetite for Destruction.
No.
No, it absolutely is. Out of nowhere, Judas Priest goes from being this like super cool thing where this song came on and I was like, what the fuck just happened here? Mm-hmm. It's like they stuck the landing so hard with the first half where out of nowhere it's like, okay, what cool. I mean, it's cool. There's flamenco guitar in A Touch of Evil. I like it. Why are there keys? Who out of nowhere brought in local keysmith, local keyboardist, pianist? But then you get to Fever, and it's like, hold on, I still got tricks here. Cool intro, slow intro, big verse, and the chorus rips too. The vocal harmonies at the end are sick. The solo that comes in the middle is crazy. Because I don't know, they're just switching keys. They're like, fuck it, we're Judas Priest. And I'm telling you, Mike, I'm telling you, if Judas Priest was a hard rock band, yeah, dude, I love this. I would love A Touch of Evil. I'm not here for Guns N' Roses, Mike. I'm not here to hear November Rain, Mr. Brownstone. I'm not here to hear any of that shit. I'm here to hear fucking wild vocals, fucking cool guitar solos. If I wanted to watch Slash play a Gibson Les Paul in front of a church in the middle of El Paso, I would. The Judas Priest. I respect your opinion, but you're wrong. Mike hasn't said a word in 2 minutes.
Are you done?
I am done,
Okay.
thank you.
Look, I think Fever's cool. I think it's a cool song. I have no problem with it. It is a song that where Take These Chains and Pain and Pleasure was doing that slow thing, and I'm not really cool with it. Fever's doing the slow thing, and I dig it. And in fact, the bridge portion, I think it's after the guitar solo, we get this sort of like ethereal bridge portion where the guitar is doing like the and just like it sounds ethereal to me. I don't know how else to describe it. But then they come right back in and they go boom, 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 and they go right back to the heavy stuff. And Rob does that thing where he goes like higher than his normal register. It's one of those like flip the table moments. This is the coolest fucking thing ever. It's like easily my favorite part of that song. It's one of my favorite parts of the album, actually. It's like such a cool moment. I'm going to go off about Touch of Evil because I think it's amazing and you're wrong. So Touch of Evil, dude. I don't know where you're getting this whole Guns N' Roses thing, dude. It sounds like you could take your headphones off, Cody. That's fine.
You keep going. Hold on. You keep going.
Yeah, you can leave the room because apparently your opinion can't handle the truth. Here's the truth, folks, if you're still listening. Touch of Evil is Judas Priest doing a true ballad, a true one. And here, again, give me my floor, Cody. Give me my floor because I'm gonna convince you. This is Touch of Evil is a true Judas Priest ballad in that it's slow, it's plotting, it's not anything that's happened on Painkiller up to this point. And we're at literally like the second to last song. So it's like this, you're right. And it's like, what the hell is this moment? Because it's so wildly different. You've got the keys that you mentioned, which have been nowhere on Painkiller so far. But what they have not gotten rid of, right? They've gotten rid of the speed. I'll give you that. They've gotten rid of like the ferocity. But what they have not gotten rid of is the heaviness and the fact that it still sounds like Painkiller. It still sounds like a song off Painkiller. The guitar tone sounds the same. The drum sounds the same. He doesn't double kick on this song, which he's done on like every other song on Painkiller. But just the idea of the metal ballad, right, is so exceedingly rare, right? Metallica does Nothing Else Matters and they've sold out, right? Other bands do some song that's about a woman or whatever, and it's sellouty and it's not metal and it's not cool and get it out of here, right? Give that to the Beatles, give it to the boy bands. We don't want that in metal. What Judas Priest does is, if we're going to sing about a woman, let's sing about it in terms of like, she's evil, right? She's I need your touch of evil, basically. In the night, please come to me. I want your touch. And yeah, it's kind of corny. It's kind of stupid. Like, is it like a seductress or like a vampire coming in like, it's dumb. But again, when Judas Priest has corny lyrics, they can still sell the hell out of it. And this is a chorus where all the choruses on Painkiller have been cool, but they've not quite been, You've Got Another Thing Coming, cool, in terms of chorus. They've not been Bloodstone, cool, in terms of chorus. Touch of Evil's chorus, dude, is like so cool. And it's not at all what Painkiller has approached choruses yet in terms of what they've been doing, but they decide to do something different here. And for me, it pays off swimmingly. And then on top of it, we get the final like 40 seconds of the song where Rob's been doing the whole, screeching vocals throughout the whole song. But then they get to the final like 8 bars of the song and they're doing the main And when they get to that last part, Rob at every other bar is adding the touch of evil. Again, I can't sing, but the touch of evil. Like, oh, dude, it's so, like, go back and listen to that part. Just like that part isolated. It's so cool. And it's such a cool way to end the song that is slow, that is methodical, that is plotting, that is not the opener, which is fast, ferocious, and it's going to rip your head off. This is not that song. This is not the rip your head off song. This is not the I'm going to stage dive off the thing behind the band. This is not the flip the table song. But what this is the heavy, slow song that is a nice piece of, spice thrown into the pot of Painkiller. It's the nice garnish on top of the meal. It's this really cool thing of let's try something before the last track. We'll get back to Painkiller, but let's try something before the last track, and it works swimmingly. For me, Touch of Evil is the better song here.
Mike, what is this? What am I holding in my hands right now?
For those listening at home, you were holding Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses.
I'm looking on the back. It actually has... It'd be better if I had prepared this. It has Touch of Evil written on the back. Mike, I love you. I think you're wrong.
Where are you getting this Guns N' Roses idea from? Like, this is not a Guns N' Roses song.
It sounded like a Guns N' Roses song to me, man.
That's like saying Riding on the Wind sounds like Welcome to the Jungle. It's like, where's the comparison here?
I'm not going to go that far, but...
Well, I don't know how you're going as far as to say Touch of Evil is Guns N' Roses.
Man, the riff sounds like a Guns N' Roses riff. The riff sounds like something that Slash and who was it? Izzy Stradlin?
Oh,
yeah.
Wait.
I have the record right here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, isn't like Sweet Child of Mine on Appetite for Destruction? Or is that...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, like Sweet Child of Mine is like the sort of ballady, nice, slow song on the record. It sounds nothing like Touch of Evil.
No, it sounds... I think this sounds like Guns N' Roses.
Okay, Cody. I don't see it at all, but Cody's riding that sort of argument. Okay, so we're split.
I am.
Cody liked Fever. I like Touch of Evil. Excuse me. So then we get to the final matchup, because I think it makes sense to have Battle Hymn just go with One Shot at Glory, because it's just the intro of One Shot at Glory. So Battle Hymn / One Shot at Glory versus Devil's Job.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go on this one?
Man, Battle Hymn, One Shot of Glory is a very, very good song. I like that, like Mike said, they said, hold on, we're not Guns N' Roses. Let's get back to the double bass jams, which, let's be real here, dude. Double bass must have just been invented, because this man has his stock in the double bass on Painkiller.
They were like, they were like, you cannot join this band unless you do double bass on every single song.
So I was reading that Rob Halford he removed the drummer from that Screaming for Vengeance lineup out because he couldn't play double bass.
Wow. I mean,
that's a legitimate thing, but it's crazy.
Yeah, because I don't think there's any double bass on Screaming for Vengeance.
No. So I have this written down in my notes. It's so produced that it now had me doubling back on the rest of the record, because having listened to everything so clean in a way, I was like, hold on. Have I just been infused? Am I not listening to this objectively? But then, Mike, it sounds like they're fumbling at the end of Painkiller. You get the Devil's Child, right? And brother, the best way to end this record is fucking Devil's Child.
Okay.
There's a lot of other band comparisons. I have written down, this is secretly the best AC/DC riff. Because, dude, it just like, sometimes you don't need to end your record on something that is so like dynamic. What you want to do, though, is if you're walking out, you want to walk out knowing that the music behind you kicks fucking ass. In just the way that this riff plays, that kind of like weird like bluesness to it, it's just so good. Like, it feels like they pulled all the fat out and said, man, fuck it, just make it loud. We're going to play the riff, we're going to make it loud. And what this did over Battle Hymn and One Shot of Glory is it felt just more organic. Battle Hymn felt like they're throwing everything at the window. You know? This song, Devil's Child comes, and it's like, yeah, I stabbed the guy in an alley a week ago. Whatever. I'm out of here. Thanks. I'm not paying for my beer. Like, okay, cool. Appreciate you. And that is what solidified the ending, that middle half of Screaming for Vengeance for me. Where listening to it, I was like, oh, yeah. If this could be side one, that's how good it is. Painkiller, though, started out, man, swinging for fucking fences, and they gassed themselves. They started throwing keyboards and shit. They started getting, like, symphonic. Why? You're Judas Priest. Cut that shit out.
Well, it may surprise you, Cody, that I actually agree with you with this matchup.
Oh, shit. I was expecting to laugh my ass off.
No, I will agree that I do think Devil's Child is better because Devil's Child just does more interesting stuff. The vocal performance, the chorus is so good because he's doing that screech, that screeching that Rob Halford does. Just no one else can do it better than him. Battle Hymn at One Shot at Glory, that's the moment. This is the moment where I'm like, okay, I'm feeling the fatigue of Painkiller, where it's like, man, this just sounds like except Touch of Evil, it sounds like every other song on this record, because Touch of Evil is interesting and it's cool and it's different. Battle Hymn One Shot at Glory is not interesting enough. It's not different enough. It's cool. I like it. But it's also a point at the record where I'm like, man, I'm kind of glad this is the last song if this is what the momentum's going to keep going for. Like, I don't dislike it enough to where I don't want it there, but I do think it's a moment where, like, if you have one more song after this that's the same, we're going to have a problem. Like, ending here, okay, fine. Like, I'll just take what it is and leave it at that. I will agree that with Painkiller, I do think the first half is just immensely stronger than the second. And I guess that's the case for Screaming for Vengeance too, because I have most of my wins for Screaming for Vengeance in the second half. Yeah, when it came to this, I just think Devil's Child is just better, objectively.
Yeah, and, you know, I think the issue with Painkiller is metal is such a hard thing to do consistently. Because eventually, yeah, you're going to want to try new things. But metal isn't the place to be Charles Mingus, you know? And I think that's where Painkiller hit, because it's like, where'd this keyboard come from? Why hasn't it been utilized a little more through the rest of the record? You know? Mm-hmm. Why are there, like, strings now? It feels like almost, maybe the second half of Painkiller is meant to play as like a story or something, because it just feels so wholly different. Except for, what was the song before that? Between Hammer?
Before Touch of Evil?
Yeah.
Between the Hammer and the Anvil.
Between Hammer. Yeah, I think maybe it was supposed to play as like a story, like Iron Maiden would do or something. Or Rush with 2112, because it's just out of nowhere. It's like, wait, where did this come from? Where, to end Screaming for Vengeance, just consistency. That's what I appreciated. It just kept going. And I felt like it could have kept one more song. So we're both going with Devil's Child, right?
Yes.
So what are we going to do about Living Bad Dream?
Well, that's actually a bonus track. And there's actually a bonus track on Screaming for Vengeance too, right? Or is that the one from Screaming for Vengeance?
Living Bad Dream, I believe,
is on Painkiller.
Is Painkiller. Yeah.
So those are actually, if I'm not mistaken, which I think I'm not, there's on the Spotify versions of these albums, they include the bonus tracks.
They do.
Yeah. Okay. I did not listen to them for this process. I have listened to them before. I didn't feel like doing the legwork of listening to bonus tracks, so I just didn't listen to them. If you would like to talk about it, you can go ahead. But
man, I'm going to be real with you. This pissed me off to no end. It really did, because I thought that this was the end of the record. And I was like, okay, cool. I like this song. It's just to be Unforgiven by Metallica. That's it. And it made me so angry, because now, in my eyes, I had GNR. That's cool. You guys are taking GNR. But now you're doing fucking Metallica in the same record? You're Judas fucking Priest. Cut the shit out, man.
Well, at least they said it's just a bonus track.
Yeah, because the Spotify version it is attached
Yeah.
there, and I was like, okay, cool, whatever. And it just, oh my god, it broke my heart because I was like, please, Painkiller, give me one good song, just out of nowhere, throw it all to the wall, fuck it, I don't care. And just to hear The Unforgiven, man, I was like, it's Metallica did it so good. Stop. And at the end of the day, there are reused riffs and there are note patterns and things like that. You can't be upset about that. But for me, it was just Painkiller. It was my final breath of hope. So if you at home enjoy Living Bad Dream, I'm sorry you got bad taste.
So I just want to point out that Prisoner of Your Eyes is the bonus track that is included on the Spotify version. And again, I didn't listen to it because I was like, I'm not going to do the bonus tracks. Like, sorry. But Spotify doesn't even list it as bonus track. It's just there, right? And it's like, why would you not just at least put like parentheses bonus track or something? But they didn't. All right, Cody. Well, let me ask you this. At the end of the day, which record do you prefer?
Screaming for Vengeance, but I think that there is love for Painkiller. It's just a shame that out of nowhere the brick and mortar falls.
Okay. Track by track wise, you gave 5 to Painkiller and 4 to Screaming for Vengeance. But again, that's just the process we do. That's not to say that makes a record better than the other. It's just interesting. Well, part of that too is that the way we worked it is that 2 songs got morphed together on each one. So technically, but whatever, right? So you do prefer Scream for Vengeance at the end of the day.
I do.
For me, I've always preferred Painkiller. And the reason why is because, by the end of Painkiller, except Touch of Evil, because I think it's amazing and you're wrong. By the end of Painkiller, like the second half, you start getting that fatigue of like, okay, we're just doing the same old jazz here. But at no point on Painkiller during that whole process do I go, okay, I actively don't like this. Like, yeah, it's sounding same, but I like Painkiller sound so much that it's just like, it's a shame that we're doing a lot of the same tricks, but I still like it. My issue with Screaming for Vengeance is that we get songs like Pain and Pleasure. We get songs like Take These Chains where I'm like, man, this is just so like, I don't really care for this at all. It's just not, when you've got so many like good songs on Screaming for Vengeance, and then to have those songs there as well, I'm just kind of like, why did we need these? I still love Screaming for Vengeance. It's my second favorite Priest record, but Painkiller has, and I think always will be, my number one.
I respect that. I think we should take the opportunity to talk about 2 of the coolest album covers in metal history.
But what's funny is that for literally Screaming for for years, I didn't know what Screaming for Vengeance's cover was. I couldn't like picture it. I couldn't figure out that it was like the falcon or the hawk or whatever, the bird. I was like, I don't know what I'm looking. Am I looking at like an Indian headdress or something? Like I just couldn't picture it. And then eventually I was like, oh, it's a bird like coming down to like strike. It is cool though, because like for years I didn't know what it was, but it's still like cool. It's colorful, which you don't see in a lot of metal records. It's evocative. Yeah. And then you get Painkiller, which is like the most metal fucking album cover I've ever seen.
Brother, it's so metal it could be a joke.
Yeah.
It's a man. It's like a metal man with falcon wings riding a dragon motorcycle with saw blades for the wheels over a burning cemetery of lava.
Yeah. Like the real kicker is that the wheels are saw blades. Like, just way to take it the extra level.
Yeah. Oh man. And it's just like, what do you think is cooler though?
I'd go Painkiller. And normally I'd say, man, that's such a corny, stupid metal cover. But dude, like when I think of Painkiller, I think of that cover. Like when Painkiller starts, I think of the cover because it is so metal. It's stupid, but it is so metal. It's so Painkiller, if that makes sense. Yeah. Screaming for Vengeance is cool. Again, I really like the color of it. I think the color of like the yellow and the reds really pop, and I like that. But like Painkiller is quintessential. It's like achieving a level of like metal stardom, like Master of Puppets, for example, like that, just like that iconic image. Painkiller's kind of that level of like iconic metal imagery for me.
Yeah, see, it's the opposite for me, where looking at Screaming for Vengeance, I just adore how timeless it looks.
Mm-hmm.
Like it looks like it could come out today.
Yeah.
Where Painkiller is really cool, but it feels dated in a way where it's like, yeah, you know what? I bet this came out on CD. Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Man. Fucking Judas Priest.
Yes, with all that being said, again, I go back to the whole Iron Maiden thing where like Iron Maiden, I respect the hell out of them. I think they made great stuff, but I've never really like adored them. I've never really revisited them often. I feel like Judas Priest is in that same camp where they kind of came around at the same time. They both did the Nawabum thing. They're both still going for whatever reason. But I think Judas Priest makes better records now than Iron Maiden does. But I still think they should just retire. I think that's fine because they've got a great legacy. And the difference between them and Iron Maiden, for me at least, is that their legacy, I think, is they've got greater amounts of records than Iron Maiden does. Like I said early in the episode, Defenders of the Faith, great record. Turbo and Ram It Down, maybe not their best records, but still good records. A lot of great stuff. I mean, Sin After Sin, it's got Dissonant Aggressor on there, which we talked about in the Slayer episode, which is like such a killer song. It's a really great discography the whole way through. Where with Iron Maiden, it's like you got that 80s era, which is like amazing. And then like 90s and on, it's kind of like, okay. For me, at least.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can agree
I'm
with that.
pissing off the Maiden fans yet again, but that's just how I feel.
They're okay, man. Their favorite band has like 47 17-minute long songs.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
Stop it. Stop writing these long songs, man.
Well, Cody, I think we can leave it there. I'm glad we got to talk about Judas Priest.
Man, you know what? Time and time again, listening to metal music really just reminds me how great it is to do something outside of the box. And I know I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If you have the desire to do something creative, please do it. Because the world needs things like Screaming for Vengeance and Painkiller. It also needed Masters of Reality. You know, it needed Evil Empire. Please, I beg of you, for the people who listen to this, start a fucking band. Start a blog. Start a podcast. Go do a play with somebody that you want to be friends with, and then afterwards, be friends with them. You know? You got another thing coming.
Nice. Got him.
Deuces.